So let's start with section 1, what is different about startups. Through our work with startups, we've had the opportunity to find some common themes, regardless of location and the vertical in which the startup operates. Now, some of these might seem obvious to you, but they're absolutely worth reviewing before we dive any deeper. The biggest factor is that startups have resource constraints. Usually, if you're starting out and you're not part of some big corporation with deep pockets, you're going to be constrained in all kinds of resources. Most importantly, money, talent, and time. When money and talent constraints present themselves, a normal side effect is that the very small initial team must act cross-functionally and across disciplines. In many cases, a lack of team members means there is also a lack of well-defined job functions. Typically, there is no VP of product. Imagine that the CEO defaults to the product function lead, as well as the marketing function, partnership function, and the distribution function. And that's a lot for just one person. Imagine the time constraints if a single person is covering all of these different areas. The question that needs to be asked is, do we have enough time to spend on all of these areas? And when is the right point in time when you actually have to start hiring for these specific areas? That's why it's mission critical that your first few hires have skill sets that are cross-functional and cross-disciplinary. Bootstrapping is a startup term that really means to do as much as you can with as few resources as possible. Everyone who's ever tried to start a company from scratch knows about this. When bootstrapping, startups in particular simply can't afford long-term development cycles, only validating the product's fits at the very end. Instead, startups need to be super fast, validating and prototyping their approaches as they go. The combination of resource constraints plus the fast-moving industries that startups operate in requires a team that is focused on very short sprints as opposed to very long product development cycles. The key is to really validate the product market fit early and often. Startups are made up of new teams and new products, which means that you're basically establishing everything as you go. Some describe the startup process as similar as to building a plane while you're flying it. Sounds impossible? It's not. And there's a lot of different ways that this can be dealt with. The first and most important concept is that of transfer learning. Transfer learning is the improvement of learning in a new task through a transfer of knowledge from a related task that has already been learned. When it comes to teams, this has to be done intentionally. As teammates come from different companies, they transfer their own culture and skills. But when you have, let's say, 10 people joining the company at once, trying to transfer these advantages doesn't always work out that well. The key is to stay agile as possible as an organization. And this doesn't only apply to the development cycle, but also just to how you grow as a company. A company with 10 people that has a couple of users is very different than a company with 100 people that has thousands of users, or a company with tens of thousands of people that serves billions of users. You really have to both apply agility to software engineering as well as your product organization. So first and foremost, and this is really the first thing that would come to mind when thinking about a product, is what problem are you solving? And that's really where the rubber meets the road.